My name's Chris Cohen, and I want to try and take another level down on the sessions that have been done by Richard and Sue at a business level and talk about, well, this is all fantastic, but so how do we do this? From the floor, one of our Visual Metrics employees who's a senior consultant who starts the front end of our projects, and worked with Richard at PFP, with Graham Wilson, and it's all well and good hearing the old stories from the wise old sales sage, but actually the consultant's the person who will tell you reality. So I just want to talk a little bit and supplement some of the content that's been delivered so far today. And this slide is actually, though it's social housing based in the context of tenancy or housing operations and repairs and development in terms of income and capital investment and long-term asset management, is these other drivers are quite critical in an overall scheme of things. Now, what you'll have heard so far today is, there are regulatory drivers, there's governmental drivers, there are internal operational drivers, there are competitive drivers, there are customer challenges, and business intelligence or performance management is not a single narrow packaged application. It's a program that wraps around all of your data, your processes, and your operations from an organisational point of view. So you'll look at things that Richard's talked about, both of them around reporting analysis, but also planning. And when I mean planning, I don't just mean a 5-year business plan or a 30-year business plan, which will change, obviously, or a financial plan, which is next year or a 3-year out forecast, but reality. But also then, between the reporting analysis of how are we doing today with a historical view, what's the plan around where we're trying to go to in terms of stakeholder, assets, value, EBITDA, but then what are the measures and metrics that we're monitoring today and effectively projecting to effectively change business performance in a positive way. And one of the sad realities of performance management and business intelligence is actually what people are really interested in is they're interested in finding out what the bad things are and then eradicating them. So the search for knowledge is all based on poor data, but it's quality data, and then driving out effective performance change. Now, Richard, who is strategic, marketing, visionary, from a SAP point of view, has slides of this ilk. Actually, the salesmen sort of have some of these slides as well. This is a Gartner slide. And actually, do you know, the big challenge is, when you want to do this thing called KPIs, performance management, business intelligence, what are the real issues that are going to change in terms of value on an operational level? And it is speed to decision making, user service. When you look around your organisation, how many people are hand cranking data in the business, not mind in IT? People who have a role and a title at the business level, but their role and their actual job function are totally and utterly disaligned. Because actually what they're doing is they're cranking the data, knife and forking it in Access and Excel. So responding to information delivery needs, aligning against strategic goals and objectives. Well, I think both of the Richards talked about that. Move towards a self-service model. That's not just about me being able to access information through my iPad or my iPhone or a laptop, but actually the effectiveness of a knowledge worker making strategic or operational decisions and making a positive impact on business. And then to decrease cost. And one of the things I get when I go into an organisation at sales level is, justified cost against value, which is a huge equational conversation. But today, and Richard said, 18 years and we had 25, 27, 28%, and we had this sort of increasing curve of investment and value against an organisation. But still, truthfully today, executives in the majority in all organisations are misaligned from the knowledge workers and the super users, the power base, and the operational information consumers. So though we've not talked a lot about multiple versions of the truth, as a minimum, we've got 3 sets of functional areas and organisational hierarchies that are disconnected. What is the impact of that today on how we perform as an organisation? And it is, from a business point of view, a lack of visibility and insight, poor alignment of decisions and actions against strategy and goal, a lack of a single and consistent view of information, not data, because at the performance management, KPI, business intelligence level, it's not about transactional data points. It's not about the credit card transaction against that customer, against a product or service you bought, at a value and a margin at a time. It's about lifting that information value at the data point to that can add value in terms of performance. And then the time wasted. How many organisations sat in this room have a month-end management pack of information for the end of April? Let's do the end of March. On the end of March performance at financial level, when does that get delivered to the organisation? And it's typically, in a good world, 6 days after trading period close. In a typical way, it's 3 weeks. In a bad way, it could be 6 to 8 weeks. So how do we make informed executive management on operational decisions when we're already 3 to 8 weeks out a lag with where the world is today or tomorrow? If you look at it from an IT point of view, all those people in the IT function, and not just in IT, because they're in the business as well, are cranking like crazy using Excel and Access. And how many people have got Access databases sat as a customer database or some form of a data ledger or a credit file that become strategic data sources on an Access database that doesn't have the rugged infrastructure of a performance, industry strength enterprise data platform. Resource constraints because of people, not just people, but people with the right knowledge that can add the value at the information layer and the data layer. And we talked briefly about a competency centre. Business intelligence competency centres are hybrids between people in the business that understand business information, business process, data with the people in IT that understand as custodians how to maintain it. And you have to harmonise those 2 skills into a single homogenous group. When you get to that point, which is where actually, interestingly, places people have got to, then you drive real strategic value. Because you're actually leveraging the knowledge of the people as well as the data. Complex IT environments. We'll talk about that a little bit later on around data quality and data integration. And then we're all in a year of austerity, aren't we? A push to reduce operational costs. How do we do that? And I mentioned one of the summary sessions is automate. Automate information the way you automate operational processes. And by that, you can affect positive change in terms of user value, business roles, and cost. So today, we have executives like Richard. We have heads of function across all organisations that are interested in things like client data, short-term financial value, long-term asset management, and other internal elements around the product or service we offer, and operational activity that ongoes every day. But how do they get that value at all levels into the organisation? And it's knife and fork. So we have delayed, inaccurate, we have conflicting decision making, we have 4 versions of the truth, and we sit in a management meeting at board level, and for 70% of the time we debate data rather than drive business positive change. Cross-functional analysis by function, and we sub-optimise. That's not very good, is it? Let's go back. So, scenario-wise, how do we manage risk? And Richard talked about risk against my receivables. How can I invest in a new capital project when I actually don't know what my debtor ledger looks like in terms of cash collection against everything that's outstanding, against all of these business functions. And Richard and Neil talked about not just that sits within my organisation, but actually my customers are really important, because without customers we can't sustain ourselves. But actually we talk about something called the information supply chain. So what about suppliers? How about sharing knowledge and value around data and the information layer with suppliers as well as customers to increase our value? That's something actually one of our larger clients, the private sector, does, which is DHL, because they are in the information supply chain industry.